Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to today's realistic review in which we are taking a look at the La-5F sitting at 3.3 battle rating in the Soviet line. Lovely. The continuation of the La-5 sitting at 3.0 battle rating. This is a magnificent plane. There are some small differences in the design. As you see behind the pilot we have a little bit more glass. And the rear of the fuselage there, the top side, has been designed differently to provide a better view from the rear. Also put in better protection there for the pilot, a thicker armor plate. And in front of the pilot is also a thick armor plate, where in the La-5 there was nothing. So as for survivability for the pilot, there has been a lot of improvement. And for the aerodynamics, I think it is also a sleeker design, because this plane is slightly faster than the La-5 as well, but there is no difference in the engine. It has the same engine as the La-5, but as I said, there is slight differences in the design. I think it might be slightly less heavy, and because of that reason performance is a little bit better. Of course, the sleek design of the back seems to be helpful as well, which is good, but in certain things like acceleration it seems to be a little tiny bit better in there. And as the engines is the same, this probably has to do with the design of the airframe. So yeah, there you have it. Small improvements on the La-5 and looking a bit better when it comes to that as well. I like this skin much better as well. So there is that, of course, without the decals on the top side of the wings. It should be when you get it clean, but you can always put something on there, of course. This plane, man, 3.3 battle rating, there is not much difference there, but there is a little bit of difference in the speed. The maximum speed of this plane at sea level without WEP is 493. That is 8 kilometers an hour better than the La-5. And 520 with WEP. At 4,500 meters, still go up to 440 without WEP. And of course 440 with WEP, which is 6 kilometers an hour quicker than the La-5. And at 6,500 meters, he goes up to 416 both with and without WEP, which is 5 kilometers an hour faster than the La-5. So a slight improvement in speeds there. We still have the WEP falling away at 3,840 meters. No WEP above that, so this plane is ideal below 3,840 meters. When you lose the WEP, you lose a little bit of oomph. There is quite a difference there with WEP. So that is always nice to have. Now the top speed in a dive is exactly the same when compared to the La-5. 699 before she redlines and 780 before she rips apart. Which is, as I've said before, quite good when you look at the other Soviet planes up till so far. This plane definitely can fulfill the boom and zoom role the best. When you compare it to Yaks and the MiGs and stuff like that. Also compression wise it seems to be a little bit better there. The control stiffening in this plane starts very tiny tick in the roll rate compression at 450. Still no issue with the elevator, and at 600 you get the more severe tick. So there's only minute control stiffening before 600 kilometers an hour. And that's good. You keep a good roll rate and you will be able to get your guns on target. This is very nice. Yeah, so that is good. You have a stall speed that is comparable to the La-5. La-5 set at 100, this one sits at 105-ish, slightly later. The 5 maybe because of the weight of the armored glass. Who knows? Although that shouldn't make that much of a difference, but it's still a little bit of a difference. The firepower in this plane is good. You have the same armament as in the La-5. You have two 20mm FAK cannons with 170 rounds per gun. You can also equip this plane with two 50 kilogram bombs. which gives it a little bit of versatility for tank RB maybe. I think this plane could be very nice there. It doesn't have great ammo loads, but it still has 20s, and it does have two 50-kilogram bombs, which you definitely can use to kill a vehicle off and then dominate in the skies. But I would probably take a IL-2 most likely in the case if I would want some air support in ground RB. But if you want to take one, then you do have some bombs on this plane. The ammo load on this plane is decent. 170 rounds is alright. Usually you get 150 on the 20mm FUCs so far with the Soviets, so that would be the benchmark, and 170 is a little bit better, so I would definitely call it decent. The acceleration in this plane is good, both in a straight line and in the dive, and the energy retention is very good, both in the horizontal and the vertical. Performance wise, below 3840 meters, this plane with the web is a great contender as an energy fighter. As with the La-5, this plane is no different. It has a tiny bit more speed, which is nice. The BR is not that much higher, which is also good. It shouldn't be much higher, because then you get to face better and better planes, of course, and your competitive edge will start to fade away. But this plane definitely has competitive edge if the player who plays it knows at least a little bit what he or she is doing. Energy fighting role. In the verticals he's also very nice. Great plane. Climb rate is good. Touching on very good again, but not above 3800, because when you lose the web it does lose a little bit of the edge there when it comes to climbing. And so you're probably in most maps, unless maybe the tiny maps, you're forced to side climb a little bit, wait a little bit, and then position yourself as the highest plane. Start off boom and zooming, and then continue in the energy fighting role, which is very nice. And this plane also has maneuverability, which is interesting, especially with the flaps deployed. You can transition to the turn fighting role as well, and kick some ass with that. Now, talking about turn time, the turn time is above average, and with flaps you go to decent. The flaps rip off at around 590. There was a pronounced difference with the La-5 there, which ripped at 540. I tested the La-5 twice, 540 and 538 I believe, and it's difficult to see sometimes, but it's pretty much the same. And the La-5F ripped off at 590, which is quite a bit longer, and well, I'll take it. Flap rippage as late as possible is always good. But that decent turn time with the flaps and that flap not ripping off at all gives you a decent platform to do some maneuvering in. It is not its strongest point, I'll have to say that. It's its weakest role. I would say energy fighting, then boom and zooming, and then turn fighting. But it's still better than most boom and zoomers, and you can still outroll and out turn many of the planes you see here. The XP50, the J21A, those are all planes you can maneuver against with success. Especially again when you are in that ideal altitude range, which we are in right now. We are on the edge of it. So yeah, and we see a P51 there, which also definitely possible to outmaneuver in this plane. So there is lots of planes that you can outmaneuver with, this plane. So that is very, very nice. Maneuverability overall then is decent, and this plane can definitely fulfill that role depending on the opposition. And there is a P61 there, you can outmaneuver. The J26 is a P51, you can outmaneuver. So yeah, there's lots of planes out there and that are used a lot at the moment in the matchmaker that face this plane, that gives this plane the name Turn Fighter. It's not a turn fighter, but yeah, you know what I mean. Overheating in this plane, like with its younger sister, the La-5, is not an issue. No overheating, barely any troubles with it. So there is no management needed there, which is very nice. Durability is decent to good. It can take quite a bit of damage, and it has that solid La-5 feeling, where you're much stronger than in yachts and in with the wing ripability, than MiGs with their major compression in dives. This plane is much more solid in dives. It has the better armor protection with the armored glass and stuff, and the plate behind the pilot, which is very nice. This is just a solid planes when it comes to survivability compared to some of the other Soviet planes. None of them are truly bad at it, but this plane is good when it comes to survivability and sturdiness of the frame and the comfortability that you have in this plane while flying it. There is not many risks to look at when you fly this plane. Of course, in the long end of the dive, it will eventually crash out quicker than many of the boom and zoom opponents in the Allied lines, but this plane definitely gives you a much bigger edge when it comes to that than the yachts, for example, which really rip much sooner. As you see me out turning a P-51C here, and me missing a lot of shots, unfortunately, which is, well, it is a tight beam on these La-5s, that is for sure. The guns are placed close together, which is very concentrated 20mm fire. If you hit with one, you hit with both, usually, and then two 20mm hitting a plane in concert gives a good killing power when it comes to that. But when you're off, you're really off with both as well. So there is that. I took way too long at this one, which basically killed Sweet there, who was in trouble against the P-51 and the XP-50. So he got killed, unfortunately. But yeah, sometimes that happens. So yeah, main energy fighting role in this plane. Then also very capable as a boom and zoomer, with in mind the 780 rip speed, and definitely after the red line you need to get out of that dive very quickly, not to get this plane destroyed, but it is much better than in some of the other Soviet planes, which is awesome. And then the turn fighting role, which can be quite surprising in this plane. With flaps deployed, you can have a lot of fun, especially in these kind of matches against Allied opposition with a lot of boom and zooming planes coming into the field. It feels like you have a turn fighter on your hands in the La-5F, because the maneuverability really isn't bad at all. So let's have a look at this ace match that we had. We have Survivor, Terror of the Sky, first place in the team. I'll see you in the conclusion. Hey guys, so here we are after the match. La-5F, I love it. It's fantastic. I hear people a lot that, well, La-5, La-5FN, and then the La-7. But the La-5F is a perfectly fine in-between step. And for some reason, I really like the Lavochkins. I prefer them above the Yaks. I prefer them above the MiGs. I like them. It gives me a solid invincible feeling, these planes, because they do transition so well and are very strong in the energy fighting role below 3800 meters, which is just so awesome. You don't have to think about the compression too much like with the MiGs. You don't have to think about the wing rippage in the Yaks too much. It is still there, like all Soviet planes basically, but it takes a lot longer. Almost 90 kilometers an hour difference with some of the Yaks. With that rip speed and the wing rippage in dives. So this plane definitely has a great role to play. And I always loved the Lavochkin line best when it comes to the three main fighter lines of the Soviets. The other ones are great too and fun, but give me a Lavochkin and I'll have fun the whole evening. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, Do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.